back with a new video on Scope International. So I'm carrying on with the following dissertations focus on the methodology. Focus on the methodology of the dissertations of the Ministry of Defence in the UK that I write. Let's start with the methodology. The design, component and technology. Technology due to the complexity of the design. To overcome that, the objective will be discussed how ISO standard for 3D print standard need to be adopted by the Ministry of Defence to enable to develop its supply chain system network. This is discussed to accomplish by having an effective supply chain on its strategy alliance and production management on its agile manufacture on the technology and the production development on its additive manufacturing, material management and inventory control in order to be able to improve the development of international organization standard and implementations of benchmark and quality assurance can be impacted on the supply chains. This is why the method of research is objectivist, positivist, because the supply chain's complexity requires the stakeholder to adopt and collaborate together. This is why the aim of the research will be to provide how the development of ISO can be effective. This method of the research are ontology objectivist, epistemologist positivist. Ontologist is concerned with the nature of social entity events. The social entity can be considered as an objective entity that have on the reality external to social actor events, and also can be objectivist and ontologist positions because the phenomena can confront the external world that influence an organizational role, regulation and standardizations, such as an organizations adapt the standardization procedure for getting their done, and epistemology positivist positions advocate the supply method. And epistemologist positivist positions the applications of method of the material science to the study reality, and this is research discussed as a phenomenon and as knowledge conferring. This is why the aim of the research will be proposing how the development and international quality standard can produce an effective 3D print and can be more agile to the supply chains of the Ministry of Defence to be more efficiency via its additive manufacture as the technology lack of standard that it means them to be very effectiveness. This is why it has been found out that it can be more agile, the supply chain to the Ministry of Defence can be more agile to the supply chains by having an efficiency additive manufacturing technology that lack no limit of customization and standardization. It has been found out that additive manufacture as a technology lack of standard that limit them to customize, design, corporate and technique due to the complexity of the design. To overcome that, the objective will be discussed to how the international standard for 3D print standard need to be adopted by the Ministry of Defence efficiency to be enabled to develop its supply chain style network. This can be accomplished by having an effective supply chains, its strategy alliance and production management on its agile manufacturing technology, product development on its additive manufacture, material manufacture, inventory control, in order to be able to improve the development of ISO and implementations of benchmarking quality assurance can impact the supply chain. This is why the method of the research is objectivist and positivist because the supply chain's complexity requires stakeholders to adopt and collaborate together. As is pointed out in the literature review, this technology is a revolutionary technology for the military, and organizations can describe the complexity component with a high technology software in one location and can eliminate the manufacturing process via the supply chains. Fortunately, additive manufacture, the new emerging technology, is already used in a large list of different types of organizations. Additive manufacture is calling the revolutionary technology for the military, but lists numerous challenges that impact and regulations between the military and subcontractor compared to the traditional supply chains. Fortunately, the paragraph will discuss the MNOGT list that must meet the purpose of the Ministry of Defence. All these challenges and advantages impact the internal and external flow of additive manufacture via its supply chains. and it can be described as an objectivist ontology because the reality lists that the military and its partners set a ruler and reputations that follow the standard. Following that, it has been demonstrated the request for all its stakeholders. The reason is because the 80 regulations of the military request more security and protections regarding the nation's protections. That's why strength the reason why Ministry of Defense can share all its data as well as subcontractor and contractor have their own 80 regulation for deep data. Fortunately, to overcome that, it has been found that with the adaptation of the supply chains by process and strategy alliance sharing data can make the Ministry of Defense to be more agile via the supply chains by collaborating and adaptation of standard of all supply chains. Also, the research is positivist as the epidemiological position, which is informed by objectivist ontological positions, or that because the external impact, this will be measured by a survey did at the Ministry of Defense compare the secondary research and the current event at the Ministry of Defense. So now I'm going to speak about the populations of the research. The list of professionals who undertake the survey questions are mainly the Ministry of Defense, Manufacturing Technology Organization for the list of the subcontractor and contractor of the defense of UK, USA, and EU. This population choose was proposed to me by Mike Porter at the Ministry of Defense in order to introduce the subject and share the survey question sample because the Ministry of Defense was actually undertaking an additive manufacture of defense workshop defense, so this was an opportunity for me to collect the data, the sample of the populations. The choice of the sample of the research is probability stratified sample because the populations of the research touch are government, private institutions, professionals in the UK, USA, and EU. The study was meant focused on the Ministry of Defense workshop of additive manufacturing defense divisions, including the list of subcontractor part to the study such as BA System, GKN Aerospace, Thales UK, DCRK, Airby, MBA, Mode Rose, Army, DS Strategy, Leonardo Helicopter, Boeing Defense, Land System, Backup, Thales UK, GNC Aerospace, GFR-K, part of our day research of mode. These participants chose mainly are focused on AM UK improvement for all the following M of our improvement additive international standard organizations at the Ministry of Defense in the UK is an opportunity for them, the supply chains to be more agile. The research part out that additive manufacturing lack of standard limit them to customize to the various list of the component and the technology. To overcome this, a set supply chain create a reliable and accurate supply chains for the development of ISO of mode UK. The selection of populations is at least on the fact that it represents a large list of reputable technology, manufacturing, engineering, technology, and government organizations with the knowledge of the subject of the management of the technology demand and the functions of the supply chains. Fortunately, the research is primarily focused on the UK and look at the secondary data on how the military and its subcontractors such as Airbus partners are addressing the problem and benefit that additive manufacturing impacting is having. It is a supply chain in order to be able to develop a better international organizations for the use of the technology. It has been discussed whether additive manufacturing technology doesn't have an adequate international standard. Technology and material will be likely to block the system, though the consider to develop an improvement of the traditional supply chains could develop a strategy alliance production management in which we develop all the chain of additive manufacturing has on the international standard improvement in order to optimize the ISO improvement, in order to optimize the supply chain of the Ministry of Defense in the UK and its subcontractor in other operations. The issue of the validity of the security. The literature review discussed about the impact that additive manufacture has via its supply chain, such as the lack of having numerous printers that impacting the technology materials. error on geometry, error on data, and having numerous printer that feed the technology material even on the geometry data, and having tacit data that can be readable by potential software. This is an impact that the technology have between the military and the subcontractor. This finding is a validated data that happen in the real world, and this result to having an issue via the qualitative data that the Ministry of Defense has between the military and its contractor. This funding is validated data that happen into the real world, and this result to an issue via the quality data from mode as the dependent fixture list the following data. Defense support network additive manufacturing used via the network of the Ministry of Defense. Potential benefit for defense operation side of the Ministry of Defense. Through a fit aircraft prototype technology material of Ministry of Defense that impacted the demonstration with type of materials and technology that Ministry of Defense use. Data issue and advantage that take the validity data because the Ministry of Defense data only provide how and why they use but not explain how they are made. And the secondary data provide reality of what happened in the real world case and impact of the technology. Through a fit aircraft and technology materials of mode, that fit data can be really a validity data for the secondary data, and also the survey questions on what type of material are the most used by mode perspective but not stakeholders. The strength of this data is there are an opportunity to make a cooperative data, and the data potential benefit for the defense can be compared with the part of AM impact in the supply chains, where the literature review will be more accurate. The finish and the secondary research give the real picture of the issue of the technology via the supply chains, and the qualitative data picture only demonstrate how and why the data are used. Data collections, secondary data. The secondary is a research that has been accomplished on the literature review chapter. It's make the literature review list a challenge and solutions. This part mark designed to discuss about the list of objectives that discuss about the following subjects such as supply chains, agile manufacturing, additive manufacturing, ISO standard organizations in order to strengthen the research questions. The publishing data mainly focus on academic journals, articles, paper collected from Summons, Scholar, Sprinkle, Scopus, and books and e-books and all the following, etc., etc. The primary data collection is positivist, epistemologist position which informed by objectivist ontology positions or the external factor that impact the measure online survey. The open close questions are also positive positions because it's mainly focused on the challenge that the ministry has with the opportunity of additive manufacturing via its supply chains are the lack of start data, active regulation, risk of replicate data due to technology and lack of standard. So most of the questions are closed because they are focused on the literature review structure. It has been made in that way to compare if the emerging technology is still impacting the military. So part of the opportunity challenge that ISO standard can create to additive manufacturing supply chains. The primary data start by introduce the list of subcontractor, contractor, Ministry of Defense, meet the conversation telephonic email. Fortunately, the colonel at the Ministry of Defense emailed me a list of subcontractor. They are in partnership with the development of additive manufacturing at the Ministry of Defense. In addition, there are 24 questions from the questions 1 to 20 is a multiple choice questions options to 23 participants and take the survey questions. There are 24. The primary data start by introduce the subjects to the list of subcontractor, contractor, Ministry of Defense by mail, conversation, telephonic. The following reason is based on the low level of average of the following. They report that there are some questions that need to be reviewed in order to promote and the subcontractor to respond. The subcontractor report they have in a contract the area sheeting to discuss about the ethic of the organization to control if any questions fit their ethic. There are some subcontractor and contractor didn't have to take the survey questions as the research is focused on the Ministry of Defense but not on organizations. There are some subcontractors didn't have much knowledge about additive manufacturing and international standard. It's important to point that most of the Closed question was not only answered from 20 participants, only 13 questions participants as well all the questions. At the difference, it has the feedback that some divisions didn't have the technical knowledge of additive manufacturing, also at the supply chain operations. The defense component also say that most of the questions in the supply chain area, productions, inventory cannot be answered, that they must review the questions. A list of subcontractors say that they are currently research and expand additive manufacturing so that the question could be fully answered. Also, to accomplish the survey questions, I went to the event conference so that I can get more information regarding additive manufacturing. In that event, especially focused Ministry of Defense organizations, any kind of organization, engineering, technology, automotive, fashions, retails. I was there to demonstrate to the staff how the technology actually impacting their organizations. The data analysis. The method for analysis the survey questions of the research will be nominal, ordinal, numerical. Through the data, it has been found out that independent variable can be explanator and predict the response to fit the literature review. The literature review structure lists of the objective response and brings solutions to the end. As the questions research are focused on the improvement of the supply chains to impact additive manufacturing is so against traditional supply chains, and the independent variable identify the objective lists in addition in the establishments of main node and establishments on independent variable that will be focused on the descriptive analysis variable, nominal, ordinal, minimal limitations of the study. Let me speak about the limitation of study. The main issue of the research were to collect data due to the list of issues, lists such as research impact, current research impact, confidentiality, policy impact. Additive manufacturing is a communication with a big structure, require a lot of control for the time and approbation due to survey question 80 regulations of the corporations. Unfortunately, that impact the average of the study, and this is impacting the funding analysis. Conclusions. The business method, the questions of the research has been defined as the ontologist objectives and positivist research as the additive manufacturing technology impact the overall supply chains of the Ministry of Defense, adaptations of the regulations and standardizations of the Ministry of Defense, by list of the objective focus on the Ministry of Defense subcontractor. Secondary data research was made through the publicity academy research focused on the ministry in the UK, EU, interactions on the following subject: strategy, alliance, productions, management, agile manufacturing, additive manufacturing, international organization standard. The primary data is a positivist epistemology positions, which informed by objectivist ontological positions held in the external market. Reliable qualitative data of more least why and how the technology is used. But they are an implicit. The secondary data make a validity with a list of solutions focused on the objectivist. Data analysis will be nominal, ordinal, and numerical, including by having an independent variable to respond to the aim and the object. A statistic address standard deviations, statistic analysis of organization square. In conclusion, this research demonstrates the methodology has been established. For the next chapter, I'm going to speak about the funding data analysis and make an establishment regarding the discussions part. For the next following chapter is going to focus on the first dissertations. The first dissertations are the same as the second dissertation. The second dissertation that I'm currently talking about, it has the same body literature review. The only things that changed was on the term of the methodology side, because on the first dissertation I established two types of survey questions. So I will mainly focus on the following methodology to explaining how it has been made to the first dissertations, so that we can explain that the first and the second dissertations coming together is mainly focused on the Ministry of Defense and also add with organizations mainly, because it's from different sources, different researchers, different dissertations, different researchers from different organizations that has been combined to the different dissertations. So thank you very much for listening. See you to the next video based on the second dissertations. Thank you. Have a good day.